Hey you guys, how's it going out there? I hope everybody's doing well. If you joined it for the first time, I do appreciate you, and thanks for watching. This is part 2 of the EP-133 KO2 sessions. As I like to say when I do these videos, I'm gonna take my time with this. This could be for beginners, it could be for intermediate users, it could be for advanced users. Wherever you are when using this unit, that's who this video was for. I just wanted to break down the mystery dealing with scenes and patterns when it comes to the KO2. This is probably one of the most complicated topics with this unit because they kind of both do the same thing, but for different reasons. Scenes are kind of for a song mode workflow, but there really is no purpose for a song mode because there's no place for me to put my song once I do come up with a song. So why would I need to use scenes to build a song in song mode? Then you have patterns, which is kind of more for a live workflow, but they work together with the scenes, but you can use them independently. You don't have to use patterns with scenes. You don't have to use scenes with patterns. Still, I want to show you the difference between the two so that you can kind of understand how they work together and how they work independently. So I hope this video helps. Let's get on with the get on. Here we have A, pattern 1. Here we have group B, pattern 1. As we already know, they like for you to have your kicks in A, your basses in B. So we're going to keep that workflow going while we go through the scenes and the patterns. So we have our drums on group A and we have our bass lines on group B. Let's start with the drums. So I'm going to take out the bass line for now and let's stick with the drums so that we can kind of take our time with this and keep it as simple as possible. So here on group A, pattern 1, we have a simple drum pattern. Super simple. Just a kick and a snare. All right. In that same group on pattern 2, a different drum pattern. Still pretty simple. Same drum sounds, different drum pattern. Makes sense, right? Let's go to pattern 3. It's going to be a different pattern. Same sounds, different pattern. Let's go to pattern 4. Same sounds, different pattern. So this is just a kick, no snare, just a kick. All right. So we just went through 4 patterns on group A. Let's go through the 4 patterns again. Let's bring it back to pattern 1. Let's go to pattern 2. Let's go to pattern 3. And now, last but not least, pattern 4. So if you notice on the screen, maybe you notice, maybe you don't, I just want to explain what everything is as I go through it. It shows you on the screen the group that you're in, and it shows you the pattern. Group A, pattern 1. This is group A, pattern 2. This is group A, pattern 3. Group A, pattern 4. Before we go forward, I just want to show you the different ways you can go through your patterns, how you can go forward or you can go backwards. You hold down the group button and you can go backwards by hitting the minus button. You start with pattern 4, go back 3, 2, 1. Or you can go forward by hitting the plus button, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can also punch in your patterns. So you hold down the group and I can go to pattern 2, for instance, like that. Or I can go to pattern 3 or pattern 4. I also want to show you that, you know, if you're dealing in an empty pattern, if you see this icon here, this icon, this little sun icon with a bracket around it, that means that's an empty pattern because we have up to 99 patterns. So it can get pretty confusing, I'm sure, but you always know you're dealing in an empty pattern when you see that icon. Now let's go back to a used pattern and you won't see that icon. 5 is unused, 4 is used, 3 is used, 2 is used. So we don't see that icon. Just wanted to point that out real quick. So let's bring in the bass lines. Bass lines are on group B. Right now, it was in B5 because I didn't want the bass line playing. So I had the patterns in group A playing with no bass line because I had group B on pattern 5 where there is nothing, so nothing's gonna play. So now let's bring it back to 1 and you'll notice that. So we have group A pattern 1 and group B pattern 1 playing at the same time. That's group A and group B pattern 1. Let's go to group A pattern 2, group B pattern 2. It's going to be a different pattern and a different bass line. Great. Let's go to pattern 3 in both groups. Different pattern, different bass line. Now, remember, pattern 4 in group A was just the kick, right? Now you're going to hear just the kick play with the bass line in group B. You hold down both group A and group B at the same time. You'll see A and B on the screen, and you can cycle through group A, pattern 1, group B, pattern 1. If you hold them down and you go to the next, you're on group A, pattern 2, and you're on group B, pattern 2. Same thing, hold it down again. Now you're in group A, pattern 3, group B, pattern 3. When you do multiple groups at the same time, you kind of got to remember it in your head. If you do one at a time, you can see it as you progress. But if you hold down multiple groups, you can't see it as you progress. So you got to remember in your head. Just wanted to point that out. Now that we kind of got the way that works, now we can switch these patterns up to play them at different times with different patterns. Let's go back. Now remember, we have this simple pattern here. This is group A, pattern 1, right? Simple 4 on the floor beat, kick and a snare. Remember, we also have 3 different bass lines on group B. We have this bass line here. We also have, this is going to be pattern 2. We have that bass line there. All right, let's go to pattern 3. We also have this bass line here. This is bass line 1 in group B. This is bass line 2 in group B. And this is bass line 3 in group B. Now, we can have any one of those bass lines playing with pattern 1 in group A, if that's what we want to do. All right, this is where you can start doing the building blocks when it comes to patterns. All right. So remember, these are different from scenes. We haven't gone to a scene yet. We're still in pattern mode. So we can have any 3 of those bass lines play with any of the drum patterns in group A. And whatever one we like, that's the one that we actually build a scene with. Let's play with those bass lines and the different drum patterns. Let's start with drum pattern 1 in group A. And let's go through the different bass lines and see which one we like, which one sounds better. Let's try pattern 2 in group B with pattern 1 in group A. That sounds okay too. That sounds pretty good. Let's try pattern 3. Let's go back to pattern 1. Let's go to pattern 3. kind of get the drift. Let's go to pattern 2. And remember, I said it's tick based. So as soon as you change the pattern, it's going to change immediately. You guys get the drift. There, I was just playing around with the different bass lines, but we're still dealing in pattern 1 in group A. That's still the same drum pattern, but we were just playing with different bass lines. Let's go to bass line 1 and let's play with some different drum patterns. This is pattern 1 in group A. Let's go to pattern 2. Remember, you got to count the bars in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Three, 4. I think you guys get the drift. You guys got this. I just wanted to show you the building blocks to show you that you can change your patterns around, put it with different drum patterns, put it with different bass lines. And remember, we're just dealing with 2 groups. You got 2 other groups here. You could do the same thing with melodies and samples and all of that, but I didn't want to make it too confusing. So I said, let's just keep it with drums and bass lines. And then once you guys get the hang of it, then you can start adding different melodies, different samples, different whatever it is. You can just play with this as many ways as you want, because remember, you have 99 patterns in each group. So you could just do this all day if that's what you wanted to do. Now we're going to go through the patterns as a whole. So you'll hear the whole entire pattern change as we go through the patterns. You'll hear the drum patterns changing, and you'll also hear the bass lines changing as well. And I'm always gonna be holding down 2 groups at a time, so that way both can change simultaneously. If I just hold down one and I advance, only group A is gonna change. If I just hold down B, only group B is gonna change. But if I hold down both will change at the same time. All right. Two. Three. Back to 1. 3, 4. 3, 4. That's all patterns right there. Let me kind of show you the difference between the scenes and the patterns now. The scenes are just the different patterns chained together that will make a scene. For instance, let's go back to group A, pattern 1, group B, pattern 1. This is group A, pattern 1, and group B, pattern 1. Let's make this a scene. We do that by holding down Shift. Now we're on to the next scene, scene 2. It just duplicated scene 1, which is this. Scene 1 went to scene 2. Scene 2 is going to be exact duplicate of scene 1 until you change scene 2. So now we're going to create some different patterns for scene 2 with the patterns that we already have. All right, if you notice here, now that we went to scene 2, we're in scene 2. What the KO2 did is it gave us an additional pattern as well. As you can see here, now we're in A5. We never had a pattern in A5 until now because we created another scene. Now, the reason that the KO2 does that is because it wants to make sure it doesn't overwrite anything. So it just automatically creates another slot, a duplicate of the exact same thing you had before it. Our last pattern in group A was pattern 4. Now that we created another scene, the KO2 has now created a pattern 5. And it also created probably a pattern 4 in group B because we only had 3 patterns in group B. Let's see. It created an additional pattern in group B, but we don't need those. So we could just delete that. We can just delete this. And we can also delete pattern 5 in group A because we've already created our patterns. I understand the concept, but it can be confusing because it starts to throw the numbers off. So anytime you create a new scene, make sure your patterns are still lined up, because as you can see here, now this is an empty pattern. You see the icon there. And when you go to B4 that it created, you can see the icon there because we deleted it. So now this is an empty pattern. So now we're back where we was, which is pattern 4 in group A is the last pattern, and pattern 3 in group B is the last pattern. So now let's go back to sequence 2. Hold down main, we're in sequence 2. Now remember, we want to change this scene from scene 1. Scene 1 is going to play pattern 1 in group A and pattern 1 in group B. Scene 2, because we just changed it, is going to play pattern 4 in group A, and it's going to play pattern 1 in group B, as you can see here. So let's see how it sounds when we do that. This is scene 1. We're still in scene 1. Now let's go to scene 2 and see it change with the different patterns that we put in. Now we're in scene 2, because remember, we changed it to pattern 4 in group A, which is just a kick, but we had it continue to play pattern 1 in group B, which is the same bass line. Let's go back to scene 1. So hopefully you guys see that. We already had our patterns. So now we're just using our scenes to put our different patterns together so that way we don't have to cycle through the patterns. We can just use the scenes to do that. Let's create scene 3. And how we do that is we hit shift. Wait, let's see what pattern we're in. Let's go to scene 2. We hit shift and we commit it. Now we're in scene 3. So in scene 3, let's see what we got in group A. Let's do pattern 2 from group A, and let's do pattern 3 from group B. So now when we go to scene 3, it's going to play pattern 2 in group A, and it's going to play pattern 3 from group B. Get ready to go to scene 2. This is scene 2. Scene 3. And we can always see what's being played by hitting the group. Remember, scene 3 is playing group A pattern 2, and it's playing group B pattern 3. Now let's go back to scene 1. I think you guys got this. You build your patterns first, and then once you have your patterns created, or your different patterns, then you can use your scenes to chain your patterns together. Let's build one more scene before we get out of here, all right? So we're in scene 1. Let's go to scene 3. Let's commit this scene so it could create a scene 4. We're going to commit scene 3. Now we're in scene 4. Drum pattern 3 and bass line 3 in scene 4, because we haven't done that yet. So let's go through the scenes one more time. We're going to start out scene 1 and we're going to progress to scene 4. We're just chaining our patterns together. Let's go. Scene 2. Scene 3. Scene 4. All right, guys, so I hope that helped. Again, this is the difference between scenes and patterns. Probably one of the most complicated features of the KO2, but I hope this little tutorial helped you understand the difference between the two and just have fun with it. Have fun with your patterns, have fun with your scenes, and when you're done with it all, piece it all together and try to make a song. That's all I can say, all right? Any questions, of course, hit me up in the comments. Any comments, add it in the comments. And as usual, keep banging out those beats. And I'll see you guys in the next video, all right? Take care.